Good morning, eHuddle. Good to see all of you. My name is Jonathan Burnett, and I would like to introduce you to my captive small group. Well, no, going to go back. This is my captive small group. This is my family, my wife Jody, and my daughters Ellie and Hattie, who I love very much. I'm sharing this just to let you know that all of us are in a small group, whether we recognize it or not. The question really is, what do we do with said group? I love coming to places like eHuddle. I'm drawn and attracted to places where people tell amazing stories about how God is using them, how ministry is thriving. It inspires me, it energizes me. And I guess part of the reason why I seek out this inspiration and energy is because often in my own ministry, I feel defeated and deflated. And you might be wondering, well, why would they invite a defeated, deflated person to eHuddle to talk? Surely we need people here who have stories to tell. And I could tell you wonderful stories about my experience with small groups. I could tell you about the small group I led, which had an outreach ministry to the homeless in a town in the UK, which transformed the town so much that there were no more homeless people there anymore. I could tell you that story. Or I could tell you the story of an amazing small group experience that we had, where as an outreach of this group, we started baking bread and giving it to a neighbor who didn't have food, and that neighbor ended up coming to our church. I could tell you these stories, but the problem with stories like this, as important and needed as they are, is that if you're anything like me, you hear these stories, you get really excited, you go home and you're like, this is going to be the year, this is going to be the season when everything changes for me, and then you end up in the same old situation in ministry that you were in before. Something happens, there's a death in the church, there's a board meeting that goes sour, and next thing you know, you discover that ministry is less about leading sheep as it is about herding cats. And most of us are allergic to cats. And so we end up with this statement: small groups don't work. Fill in the blank. Evangelism doesn't work. Church planting doesn't work. It doesn't work. And we tell these horror stories to each other about the time we tried and the board rejected it, or the time we tried and the conference president didn't support us. But the deep, dark secret in many of our hearts, in my heart, is that it's not so much that it's small groups that don't work, but it's me who doesn't work. I don't work. The issue is not that I don't have enough information. The issue is not that I'm missing the secret source model. The issue is not that I don't have enough inspiration. The challenge that many of us, and myself included, have is that we go home with all the best intentions, and then life happens and we get distracted from the vision that we captured. I've caught lightning in a bottle so many times. The problem is I put the bottle down and I don't know where it is anymore. I remember when I left seminary, I thought I was going to change the church. But 15 years in, I sometimes wonder whether the church has changed me. And so I want to tell you a story about what God does when you fail. In 2022, coming out of the pandemic, being someone who has opportunities to teach people about small groups, by God's grace, I've taught hundreds of people at this point about how to lead small groups, how to start small groups. I've coached small group leaders. I've had my own groups myself. So in 2020, I'm like, listen, we're going to launch small groups in my church in Chicago. It's going to be amazing. I'm going to be on the front page of the Lake Union Herald. It's going to be great. And so we invited a close friend and mentor, Dr. Bill Payne, who will be presenting here later, to lead a visioning weekend in a small groups. It was great. All the members were excited. And the plan was, after that weekend, I would then carry on with training for leaders, and we would launch some small groups. And so I announced that we would have some training for leaders. And of the 250 people who were excited about small groups on the weekend, only 8 showed up for the training. And I felt discouraged. I'll admit to you, I felt discouraged. But then I was like, well, even Jesus only had 12, so maybe with 8 we can do something. So we started meeting in my home, and it was exciting. We were meeting on a Friday night with my family, as I mentioned. I was sharing with them all these principles. It was great, but life in a city like Chicago, it's busy. People are rushing around all week and then coming to my house on a Friday night, fighting through traffic and the devil to get to my living room. After a while, it started to peter out. 8 went to 6, and then 6 went to 4. And then at one point, it was just my family and this 1 or 2 other people. And I have to admit, I got discouraged. This is not the success I thought I was looking for. Maybe I need a different model. So we said, okay, rather than every Friday, let's do every other Friday. We've got to be flexible. We've got to adjust. It's a modern day. So we went to every other week. And that was okay for a while, but then every other week became once a month. And then once a month became once every few months. And then it just petered out. And here's the crazy thing. My plan was I was going to be developing leaders in this pilot group to launch them, just as Dr. Eli said, to start their own groups. But we didn't even get through our whole 12 series of training before it petered out. I felt defeated, I felt discouraged, and the dark voice that joins us in our prayer time that we don't often preach about whispered to me, "What a fraud you are. You tell everybody else how to do it, and you can't even do it yourself. You should just give up." I reflected on how throughout my life, it's always been so much easier for me to have ideas, to see connections, to envision amazing things than it is for me to actually carry it out. I'm great at starting things. I'm terrible at finishing them. And I discovered that what to me seemed like a deficiency, what to me seemed like a weakness, was actually God's grace to me. It wasn't a bug, it was a feature. I have dyslexia, and I'm almost certain at this point I'm undiagnosed ADHD. But what I am discovering is that many of the most successful entrepreneurs in the world have these neurodivergent traits. It is that ability to see ideas that others don't, to make connections, to be able to get up in front of people and inspire them that actually create great movements. But those same people have the same weaknesses I do. Struggling with organization. Am I by myself? Difficulty with administration. I'll definitely email you. And then I remember 3 months later. And sometimes the reason why these things don't work in our context is because of the weaknesses and the struggles we have. But I have discovered that the Spirit of God is not limited by my limitations. In fact, it is in my weaknesses that His strength is made perfect. So let me show you what God did. One of those 8 people who came was this amazing woman called Patricia Mendez. She was new to our congregation. In fact, the first week she came was when Dr. Payne was sharing about small groups. She was so excited. She came to every meeting, and it petered out after, like I said, about 6 or so sessions, and I was discouraged. I was ashamed. I just ignored it. And then about 3 months later, she called me, and she said, "Pastor, I need some help and advice with my small group." I said, "I'm sorry, you're what?" No, the small group. She said, no, Pastor, I started my own small group, and it's grown, and I need some advice as to how to manage it. So I was blown away. Turns out that Patricia works at Costco, and she, even with what I consider to be the failure of my small group training program, she was given enough by the Spirit and so excited by what she discovered that she started talking to her friends at work. And so now she has a small group of 10, 15 people, none of them from my church, none of them Seventh-day Adventists, none of them yet know the blessings of Big Frank's. I'm hoping they'll get there. But they're meeting every other Sabbath afternoon in her house, and they're praying for the first time, and they're discovering faith in Jesus for the first time. And she was so overwhelmed by their Bible questions, she said, "Pastor, would you come maybe once a month or so just to answer their questions?" And I kid you not, when I got into that room, it felt like the book of Acts come to life. Their faces were literally shining. It was the most amazing thing I had experienced. And what I thought was a failure, what I thought was a weakness in me became a strength. Because in that moment, as they're pinging questions on all kinds of topics without following the Bible study strategy that we usually follow, somehow my neurodivergent brain is connecting to this, and I'm remembering this story and this thing, and the very thing that seemed like a weakness, God used as a strength. Now we have people from this group who have given their life to Jesus in baptism. And now God is doing things that don't fit with my manual. Like there are people who are coming to the group, getting closer to Jesus and becoming more committed to their Catholic church. I don't know prophetically how that works. I need to pray on that more. But God is doing things that I cannot understand, neither can I control. I want to give the last few moments to Patricia and her sister Layla to talk to you a little bit about their experience with small groups.
Patricia, Layla, you have a story to share about small groups. Tell us about that.
I heard about small groups when I was living in Alabama, and it was just fascinating to me. I was really excited about what was going on and the work that was being done. And then I had never experienced that before, so it was something new, and I really liked it. But in the back of my mind, I was like, I would love to lead out in one, but with my, sounds crazy, but like with my Adventist background, bring that to the table. But so I came back to Chicago, and I still had that on my heart. I really, really wanted to be a part of that, but I didn't know where to begin. I was looking for some type of guidance or mentorship or training, something. And then I've been praying about it, and then there you go, offering it. I was just blown away.
Wow.
So I'm excited, really excited. This is an answer to prayer.
That's so awesome. And what's your experience been, Layla?
Well, she's my little sister, but she, because I had been involved in the church a lot, but then after my divorce and that, I was really tired, and so I wasn't as active. So she kept telling me, you've got to do this, you've got to do that, and then when she was in Alabama and she heard about the small group, she says, you've got to get back in there, you've got to get started again in church, you've got to start a group. And I would tell her, but I don't even remember how to do a sermon. I don't remember how to go up, and I don't know. I just don't know. And she kept at it, but I just kept saying, I'm kind of busy right now. I don't know when to start. And then it was in my heart, and I had been planning to retire 2 years ago and live by the beach. Remember, I was telling everybody, I'm gonna go to Huatulco and live by the beach. But then the pandemic happened, and it kind of set my plans back, and then I was always praying for God to guide me as to where He wanted me to be and what He wanted me to do. So then I was wondering about North Shore, and I said, I wonder what's going on at North Shore Church. So then I saw there was a new pastor. So I said, let me go listen to his sermon. So I went and I heard your sermon, and I'm like, I'm coming back home. And then I sent my sister a text, Patricia, the Spirit is here. It's alive in North Shore. And she said that's what she had heard too from other friends. And then when you started talking about the small groups, I was like, I want to do this. And I think you and your wife, and it's going to be a blessing. And I guess I'm not going to be on the beach for a while, just on vacations, but I'm happy to be here and do whatever I can to help.
Small groups are small, weak things. But the beauty of them is that God has chosen the weak things of the world to put to shame the things which are mighty. So I want to encourage you to try and to fail boldly with small groups. I want to encourage you to go back to that church where it doesn't work and try one more time. Maybe there is someone in your church, I don't know if you could hear clearly, their testimony was they were praying that God would bring some small groups to them, and He sent them this weak, small, frail pastor, but the small gift I could give them sparked something that the results will be seen in eternity. Go, try, fail to the glory of God. Amen.